Okay, so XE experience when business meets design. I enjoyed reading this, at least especially the first maybe half or so. I really enjoyed because I really like talking about experience. I'm on the design team and we're constantly talking about that. And so in regards to customer experience, I thought this was really interesting. I think that if there was one reason that Brian Solis wrote this book, it would be because he believes that beyond any fantastic product or incredible marketing campaign or even great customer service, customer experience is ultimately what drives the success of companies. And so he talks a lot about statistics and why companies who are incorporating customer experience and have teams that are dedicated to customer experience are doing so much better than those who aren't. So that's what I have to say is his reasoning behind this book. Since I'm going to guess that most people didn't read it because it's not on audio, I'm just going to take this next slide to kind of give us a little breakdown of what the book is about. So on the right is his table of contents, and on the left is what I think could be summarizing the table of contents. I think there are 4 main sections.
His design is not very good.
Interesting. Yeah. So on the left is what I think the book should be divided by. And so the first section, he takes a lot of time to define customer experience. He talks a lot about companies that are doing this well. He talks about how customer experience has evolved throughout the years. He gives a lot of statistics about companies who are doing this well. And a lot of different vocabulary he brings in to define customer experience. So a quote from the book that I think defines this section the best is, "Experiences are more important than products now. They are products," which I thought was really interesting. The second section of the book, he talks a lot about empathy and empathizing with our customers. And so it kind of sounds like it's a subsection of the first, but really he takes so much time to talk about this that I think it's his own section. Becoming the customer. Something he says is the secret ingredient in creating any meaningful experience is empathy, the ability to understand and share another person's feelings. The third section is basically the how of the whole book, and it's a big chunk on talking about how we can implement this into our companies and what that practically looks like. So through journey maps, and experience flows, which I was just talking to the team about this. We just did an awesome journey map for Sabre, and I'm not Sabre, Flex Drive, right? Or
Sabre.
Okay, yeah. And Sarah did this, worked on this, and
We used it to sell Flex Drive.
it was better than
It was useful.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, I remember. That journey map that we did, I think was better than any of the ones he has in the book. So, congrats. And then the last section basically is circular because it goes back to the first section, and he's just saying it works. Customer experience works, and he has some more case studies on companies who have done this really well. So that's kind of how I broke down our discussion too into these 4 different sections. I wanted to start out the discussion with asking the same question he asks at the very beginning of the book, just to get our minds going with customer experience. And it is, what are the best experiences you've had with a company? Thinking about brands that you interact with, what are some good experiences you've had?
Do you want to answer this?
Yeah. Yes.
For me, I really had a good experience with Audible. Like their chat service solved my problem quickly, and they were super helpful and appreciative. And then I feel like even went above and beyond about like returning books, even though I paid for them in all different kinds of ways. So they've really helped me a lot with my account, and I feel like it's fast.
And is it in chat that you do use
Yeah,
mostly?
it's
I've used the
mostly in
chat
chat.
too. It's great.
Yeah,
I've actually called them. They've been great on phone.
I know, I prefer chats. So like with Verizon, because I can like just chat and get on the little chat thing and still like do whatever it was that I'm doing and talk to somebody at the same time. It makes customer service a lot better. Because I hate talking on the phone.
So you said Verizon's the one that you think is the best?
Well, no, I'm saying that particular experience is a lot better than other places.
I'm just speaking for
I think I had a really good experience with Airbnb. I booked a trip and like I was booking everything for myself and some friends, but then I ended up not going and they ended up not staying where I booked. So I had to deal with their support team and being like, hey, you know, they couldn't figure out how to get into the place, which is why they ended up not staying there. And so I had to like have this kind of discourse back and forth with them to talk about like what happened or whatever. And they were very accommodating. Like I was in the wrong and they were in the wrong because the guy had placed like the instructions in where he said he was going to place it, but we couldn't find it anywhere in that. And so, but they still like refunded me, and they were like just being very helpful with helping me figure out what I was supposed to be doing with that. So booking a place is really easy. Obviously, it's Airbnb, but also on the back end of like having to cancel, which is a really odd use case. I guess it still kind of worked out really well. So.
Nice. On a different note, I've had really good experiences with Nordstrom's. Going in there and having somebody help us, like when my husband, we were trying to outfit him for our wedding, and we weren't sure what to get, and we had a guy come and help us like coordinate all the colors, find the right stuff. It was all affordable. Like his customer service was really helpful.
Having that kind of concierge level service really helps out. Like when I went to Volvo, at no point did I feel like anything that I touched had not been thought out, had been designed. There'd been a team of people that had made sure that through the entire process, I never felt confused or even when I get my car serviced there, everything has been thought out. There's nothing left to chance. You know, even the little hey follow up text is personalized.
Yeah,
You know,
that's really cool.
they do a really good job, and it helps. It sells me the brand. I'm spending a lot of time, energy, and money investing in this company, and it is there is something to be said that part of what I'm paying for is that experience versus when I bought from others.
I thought that the Apple box opening chart was really interesting. Like it's an entire story, just the box.
Oh, yeah.
It's like peak, you know, it starts off with you having to slide the box off really slowly, and then you have to open a little thing, and then you see the phone, and it's the peak, and then it's got a denouement. It's like a whole story. That was cool.
For me, I think like the first time I used Uber, I guess, was that I never used public taxis, and taxis usually call and everything. It was that story because I didn't use Uber before, and at that point I had to get a taxi, to go somewhere, to have a car. I just go download the app and just go through everything very quickly, and it worked. It just worked.
My favorite part of that experience is taking a picture of your credit card, and then your credit card's so fast.
Yeah, I like Uber does a really good job of making that simple, and Uber Eats too, for that matter.
Yeah.
It's like it's a big deal.
One I discovered recently was pretty good was Bake Simple. Their customer support, like my card stopped working, and it was one of those chat things again. I think it was actually intercom. I could get somebody immediately and handle the entire transaction, the entire communication over the course of a minute of chatting. That if I had sent an email, might have taken a couple of days to kind of resolve the whole thing. And everything in there too is all like they have access to everything. It's quick. They don't have to look me up or do anything about me. They know that I'm logged in as me, so they're talking to Ben. And on some of these chats, you have to identify yourself, and there's this whole process.
Yeah.
So for me, that was really nice.
It gets really tedious whenever you have to be like, I'm logged in as this person.
Yeah.
Be able
You know
to see
me.
this. Don't ask for all of my account information. Like,
Yep, right. I just entered that.
Yeah.
My kid was in it fast forward.
So I had a really good experience with Nescafe. My wife bought me one of their Nespresso machines, and everything about the experience is pretty amazing. It's basically white glove. Like you walk in, and if you're ever in the mall and you want coffee, you don't have to go to Starbucks to pay for it. You can literally just walk in there and walk back past the coffee bar like you're looking at coffee, and they're like, "Do you want to try anything?" You're like, "Yeah." Just a tip.
You can do that at Perch as well, by the way. Free coffee
yeah,
at
where?
Perch. Perch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Great.
Perch is the best
Great.
place all the time. I
Or
love
free
Perch.
tea.
But I had an experience that happened. I had an experience where once Nicole bought this for me, it came with a $100 credit to buy coffee. And when I went in, so it started out with like not the greatest experience because they couldn't find it. And they're like, maybe use a different email. I thought, oh, okay, maybe.
She gave me a card with a number, and she said, just call this, we will take care of you and get everything taken care of. And so I called, and they basically discovered that somebody had stolen my credits somehow. But they were equally as concerned as I was, the person I was speaking with. And I only ever spoke with one person. And she basically coordinated with Nescafe investigators and was like, I will call you back tomorrow. And she didn't call me the next day, but I got an email with credit. And then she called me the following day and said, hey, sorry I didn't call you back yesterday. I was just making sure that we got everything tied up, everything taken care of. You should have received an email. I was like, oh yeah, I did. And I don't know, everything about that was pretty great, how they basically, fixed whatever, this error was without having to be transferred to,
Yeah.
something else.
One-stop customer service.
Mhm.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then just every time I go in there, they're like, I wasn't all that terribly excited about, the product,
Oh, yeah.
but after going in there a few times, I feel awesome every time I walk out.
Yeah.
Oh, this place is amazing.
Well, Kirch was a good segue because I was like, well, if I were to answer this question,
Boom.
this is like outside of the technology realm and just thinking about an experience with just another brand. Every time I go to North Park Mall, I park in the Prince parking lots because I want to walk through there. And I can't afford anything in there. I might never be able to afford anything in there, but I still want to walk through. And so if y'all haven't been there, this is basically what it looks like when you walk in. This grand entry. And even before you get to the entry, there's this atrium, and the doors are super tall, which cause you to look up, and there's this art installation even on the ceiling. And so it feels like they've thought out every point that we're going to look like they've designed it. And so, but once you enter, there's this big bar right here, and regardless of what you look like or how many people you're walking in with, they offer you a free drink. And so it's coffee, it's tea, it's whatever you want. And so I've come in there with a massive group of girls before, and they offered every one of us a drink, and it wasn't just eye roll. And so the thing for me that made this good experience.
What did they sell there?
Yeah, it's just houseware, appliances.
Furniture for people who make $1 million a year.
So rich IKEA.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's more like kitchen and bath.
Right.
Okay.
And outdoors appliances.
It's so nice.
Awesome.
And so the reasons that it sticks out to me is they have an incredible first impression. Everyone greets you at the front, but it's not annoying, and it's also just beautiful. They also, they're not annoying you at the store, they're not following you and do you need help? Do you need help? Or, or staring at you if you look like you're gonna break something. That's usually the case for me because I'm short. And so I don't feel, anytime I go to a fancy place, I see people watching me. And so they guide you through the store. Yeah.
It's not even fancy places though. I worked at Party City, and I know that people used to get really annoyed because if we saw a customer, we had to walk up to them and be like, what can I help you find? We had a script and we had to go through 6 questions anytime we talked to somebody. It was I don't want to shop there because I don't want them to talk to me that much.
I think a lot of it too, for me, if you have a salesperson who is able to read the person and know this person's not going to respond to persistent asking for help. Nobody is, but I think there's some people that have a higher tolerance for that than others.
Yes.
That goes a long way for me.
No, I think so too.
I've also had an awesome experience there when, you were walking through, and we're like, we're not going to buy anything in here. This is awesome. So we went in, they have a whole area with shower heads, and then they have some fully built out showers that are, must cost $200,000 just for the shower heads and steam stuff. And they were we were looking, and they're are you guys in the market? If you are, you can actually come in here. We'll open the store for you an hour early one morning, and you can actually take a shower and see what it feels like.
Oh, no.
And I was like, well, that could be, it's in a closed area. They're like, well, yeah, you can leave your bathing suit on. It's just so you can feel it and get that experience. They actually really go the extra mile. They'll open the store up an hour early for you if you want to try it.
They're going to probably make it
And they'll do that with
profit off
the
of
cooking
that
process
shower
as
head.
well.
That's hilarious.
You
could come in and cook on the stove if you
I
want.
know.
Oh yeah, I've seen them in there
That's
cooking
awesome.
food up before, like some legit
Well,
food.
their
Yeah, they-
cooking classes are free. So
Yeah.
if you get a ticket, it's free.
Oh, it's a class. Oh,
Yeah, they have cooking classes.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Field trip.
I mean, I've been walking in the showers and the employee will come up and is like, turn on the shower. I'm like, okay. Really? And so it's just cool. And even product placement, they have stuff that's like cheap enough for the commoner, maybe, as like gifts. And that's through the middle of the store, which at some point you get to, you know? And so I think that's really nice. And even there's quotes on the walls. The fonts are a little crazy, but it kind of brings it back down to earth. They're trying to talk with the customer and appeal to your emotions. And so these are all over the store as well, just these kind of inspirational quotes, which I think is interesting. Everything just feels very thought out and intentional, and which is what makes Perch awesome. So, back to book. X. So there's a big X on the book, and though it also stands for experience, what he really needs it for is the X factor. And what he says is it's what makes your experience special. The je ne sais quoi is what he says, but I didn't want to write that out. So, anyways, yeah. So, question: what is making the Dialexa customer experience special right now? What's something we're doing right now that you think is special, with like an X factor, that you think we're doing well right now, I guess?
I think we have a lot of transparency. I think any customer from our smallest to our biggest, we tour them through, they see us working. It's not like, here's a nice little showpiece that we've specifically set up for you. It's like, no, this is how we do every single day.
Yeah.
And it's live. And I feel like that helps resonate, that we're working hard and we're going to work for you just as well as we will for the big customer we have in front of us at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Even with ping pong breaks.
Even with big.
Yeah.
We use a lot of language, about we language. We talk a lot about partnerships. And I think that's a different approach. You see, at least places I've worked, it's a little different.
I think the fact that we push back if we have a differing opinion of how to make something more successful, which I'm sure some companies do, but I'm sure a lot don't. They just take what you say and okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, I feel like that's good though, because it shows the customer that we're like, no, I'm just gonna do what they say even if they're completely wrong.
We're not just taking your money.
Yeah.
We want you to have a bad product.
Yeah. I think it's more trustworthy when somebody can also tell you that they disagree with you. So.
I also think we support the take some action now. If something that we do that is require like comfort and make us happy, then we're going to do it. So I think the SPU not doing anything, just have to do it to make them happy.
Like when our whole team went out to park
Yeah, exactly.
park cars.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think that if we need to stay here all night to finish something, I think that's something that the team is totally willing to do.
I think that we've actually started that on the sales process from the very beginning now, with the way we talk about ourselves in the decks, the new decks that we've done, the marketing efforts that we've done. It feels more like the production does once we get into production. I think it segues a lot better. And now we have that end-to-end flow feels more like what you're going to have when you're in the operations side.
Instead of a Word doc.
Instead of a Word doc,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's what it was before you.
Nice.
There you go.
That's funny. Okay, so another phrase that he uses a lot throughout the book is human-centered experience architecture. He defines it as the sum of all customer engagements in each touch point. So from the very first advertisement they might see on Facebook, or that leads them to a blog, to the end point where it's like post-production, post-project. How are we interacting with them then? Every touch point, and every moment of truth throughout the customer life cycle. And he has a lot of graphs and diagrams within the book. This is one where he talks about experience. And the reason that I included this is because I love the idea of storytelling. I think this is so important when we're interacting with our clients, and then also the Dialexa story. Are we always telling our story well, and is it consistent? And so when he talked about experience architecture and that being an integration of telling a story and then designing for the user, I was like, yeah.
We do have a lunch and learn coming up next month where we're going to do like business, but we're also going to do a little bit about the Dialexa system too.
Oh, yeah.
In that segment.
No, I think that's really awesome.
Well, and both of our co-founders are pretty great storytellers.
Yes.
So I think it is at least in our DNA.
Yeah. Okay, so question, and I know that we've been working on stories and journey mapping and stuff with our clients, and so how are we invested in our clients' stories, and how are we helping them tell a good one? What are the things we're doing now, I guess?
What other things we're doing now?
I mean, I think that journey map is a pretty good example, because we're thinking about this, I mean, literally journey of the customer, which is essentially their story of interaction with their consumer
Yeah.
client.
I think I would even go as far as saying the whole discovery process is something we're trying to evolve into finding out what that story is, what is the message they're trying to tell,
Right.
and then determining if they're telling it or not.
Right, and helping them understand where there might be holes in which they can have a cohesive story and then have a more, successful product because of the way they're telling their story and who they're connecting to. So yeah, echoing what both those guys said.
That's actually a pretty interesting idea about kind of explaining the way that we work with our clients. Kind of, when you just said looking for gaps. I mean, looking for gaps in the story that we're building with their consumers. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, 'cause that was one thing at least I think that helps us get the edge is that whole strategy piece of how are we connecting to your users or the client's users.
And even
how-
farther back, we really start with the why of the business. I think we do a really good job of that, better than most companies that do what we do. So starting with that why sort of makes you have to tell a story, because you can't answer why without telling a story. Right? So it's, I think, backing up to understand what the business is really about and why they exist. How are they trying to solve this one problem? What is the problem, and how are they trying to solve it? And then how can we map that personas that we come up with through that journey that creates that story. So I think it's through that whole time period.
And I think, there's some areas for improvement, but the way we're trying to explain our designs and then when we talk about it is very much centered around the story of the user and why they're here and what helps them make their decisions in their day and why our design helps with that, right? Because that sells the design more than we like the color blue, so we made it blue. Right? It's this color blue helps them, feel more calm or more corporate and clean and, communicates the message you're wanting to have and helps, what the user navigate through certain parts of the application based on what they need.
No, I think story is something that any client can get on board with, and it's something that's graspable, and always speaking in using story vocabulary, I think, is only helpful for the client, but also even thinking about Dialexa in ensuring that company-wide everyone's aware of our story that we're trying to sell and we're trying to tell, and I think that's kind of shaky right now. I don't know if everyone can say consistently, why we're doing what we're doing or even what we do. And so I think that this is a company-wide thing that we all kind of need to get on board with.
Should I publish it again? Tell everybody to read it again?
Yeah, no, seriously. Or even talk about it at lunch and learns.
Yeah.
Right, people hearing it, and I think that that's something that people get on board with really quickly.
Are we doing this in onboarding at all? Or
It's in the onboarding.
Okay. I haven't seen all of
Specifically,
those.
I had him add it back in, mission, vision, and all of the little mini story is in there about what we do.
And this is one of the things I know we talked about before, which was eventually creating a short video of the story, which I think
we
helps
definitely need
tell
to do
that
that.
story a bit better than reading it.
But I actually think what we're doing is close to that. I mean, it's not I don't think the story is the history. The story's not the history. The story is why and how we do what we do, which is the video we made, right? So it's much more about, and then product innovation, getting excited about what you do and making it something real, and we combine all these cool people together that cross disciplines, and it's that excitement that's the story.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Well, and that's also just a fun thing about storytelling that I think when we went down to ACU to talk about Dialexa, and we interwove stories about people to talk about our culture, as well as when we went down to
A little more anecdotal.
sketching and in prototyping, like
Yeah.
we use client stories to be able, and I think that the important part of that is it helps make our concepts more sticky. Like people can attach and understand stories as opposed to just like a bullet list of
Right.
we do prototyping and sketching and whiteboarding
This
and
is,
blah,
yeah,
blah,
this is why we shadow, because these are the types of discoveries we can make through that process.
That makes sense. And even like communicating with our clients and how they're a part of the story and how we're positioning ourselves. You know, it's like, are they the hero? Are we the hero? You know, and are we helping them? I think that that's vocabulary that they need to really hear too. So, anyways, that's first section. So, becoming the customer. What do we want our customers to feel as they experience our brands? And thinking about when they see the first ad, or when they see an ad on Facebook or whatever, or when they go to our blog, what do we want them to feel, and the website, and especially when they come into our office, what do we want them to feel? And when they're in meetings and when we're pitching them, are we taking the time to think about their feelings and how we're kind of creating this relationship with them instead of kind of just fulfilling a task, I guess. Anyways, we can answer that now. How do we want them to feel?
I want them to come. I want them to walk in here and look and be like, idea of who?
Mhm.
Like that. I think right now that they're the big juggernaut for, and I think we are more than capable of crushing them in the market. And I think it's just getting big enough and getting our story out and getting our customers talking.
Yeah.
So I like what Scott said, that we're badass, but I think that what I like when I bring people, and I actually bring people up the stairs so I can take them into the other part, because I like at the moment, because I don't, I want to control the experience a little bit more. And I like that they say wow. I mean, they almost say wow, the word wow.
Yeah.
In fact, many do say wow. And it's just a feeling of awe, and that these guys can solve any problem. And, and the culture is palpable. I say you can almost read the culture, and that's a great way of telling the story. And by the time they leave, they feel a part of it. They feel it in them, too. So it's really easy, because we have the openness, and all the stuff that we do is above you and around you, and you feel a part of it. I think that's a really important part of it.
I think that's something that kind of bleeds through as well, because Dialexa as a brand, in order to be able to expand and reach those heights, has to be able to attract talent to work on these projects. And having recently gone through that process, I think there's definitely a sense of like potential and talent that's already here, and of possibility that people who come into the office feel almost immediately. And excitement. People are excited to be working on what they're working on. And that's something that is very different from like other places than it can be in other places, right? Like you go and you do a job, and you're doing the job because you're getting paid for it, but you're not necessarily invested in the outcome. Whereas here, you get a sense that people are invested in the outcome of things that they're working on. And I think that's something that's important to both people actually trying to expand as a company, from a talent side, and as well as like a business development side. That like people are happy to be here. People stay late. People come early. No one asks them to do that, right? And I've been in other places where it's like, there's mandated times you have to be here, time that you can leave, and time that you can be on a walk, or time that you can be at lunch, time that you can be on your phone, like very mandated. And when you give people those constraints, like they're less likely to want to do more. But here, people they just want to do. People are here on the weekend. People are here like super late at night. People are here super in the morning because of the culture and because of the excitement. And so I think that's something that's important, and it's going to continue to be important for like new people and new customers and existing customers. Like I'm excited to be working on your project. That comes through in everything that you do.
Yeah, no, I want people to be able to walk in here and like understand at least a little bit of how it feels to work here. And like as somebody who's only been here a month, like I'm still overwhelmed by how much I like all of the people and the feel, and like how everybody feeds off of each other's energy and stuff. And like you can feel it when you walk in the door that everybody's just like, I'm surrounded by brilliant people, and that just makes me want to try harder. And it's very like human thing.
Yeah, it's aspirational, I think. when you have people who are here that are so good, you're like, I gotta get better.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's why you're willing to like do more.
I think I like the fact that, like, I've had people come in here and just say, like, man, this is where I feel like you're going to make really awesome stuff, you
Yeah.
know, or where real creative thinking happens. This is what I would envision if I were thinking about where really awesome things are
We've
going.
actually had customers come and say, can we just have a creative meeting here?
Yeah, we literally had people host meetings here.
That's awesome.
ID90.
They just want to get out of their space. They're like, I want people to feel this. Like, it's a feeling. It's not just what they see, but it's like what they feel when they're here.
Yeah, so one great thing that Ken's working on that I don't think everybody knows that he's doing is that we're working on a unique customer experience for when you come in the door. And we hope to actually augment it with even a bunch of other stuff. But the basics that Ken is doing is he's creating a lot of connections back to Google Calendar and some contact databases where if you have a meeting, you can just basically say, send this meeting to the board, and it'll show it on the TV with who's going to be in the meeting, and it'll have iPads that are connected to each person in the meeting. You can pick up your iPad that has your name on it, and it'll have the agenda of the meeting and all the other stuff that you're going to see in the meeting. So if the person's running late, you can read it. You can also ping them directly from that iPad. We've kind of got the mini version of that working already. So that's going to be a really neat journey in. You're going to be able to actually come in the door and not have to interact with Ty and have him bring you to wherever you are, right? So you're actually going to be able to, yeah.
And what's also kind of interesting about that is that we've also mixed in business value to this thing. So we're gathering data all along the way, and we're seeding in these things where if they get here early and they're waiting, you know, there's all this interesting Dialexa content that they can also mail to themselves, which include things that allow us to track when they're opening it or if they're forwarded and things like that to show, like, to allow us to understand the level of interest that this person might have.
Yeah.
Leave it to Ken to track everything.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
exactly.
pretty much right.
And then hopefully we're going to add some near wall mounted projectors to project on the curb wall all the software that we've developed and connected into the hardware and some other things. And in my perfect world, we'll have it projecting onto the ping pong table where when you play ping pong, it keeps score automatically for you and can brand it when people aren't playing ping pong, which is really cool.
See, a lot of this sounds like you guys are aiming for just like making it really fun and interactive for people to like walk in the door and like that just reminds me of a conversation I had with somebody that was about to interview here, like right after I started. I was just like, I've never had fun during an interview, but I had fun interviewing here. And that's, I mean, that, like even something as serious as like doing an interview doesn't have to be miserable. And that's like you're going to a business meeting and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, look at this iPad, I have a new toy.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
No, and I think that's awesome because I think that's one big thing right now that's kind of a pain point for our customer experience is when they walk in and they don't really know what to do and they're looking around and we're looking at them and it's just like this moment of confusion.
One thing
Everybody's hoping somebody else would go up and
Yes.
see them.
It's like, I'll do it, I know I'm
One
there.
thing I think we should
I'm going to
have.
pretend like I don't see you right now. No, I made eye contact.
That must be the thing. I'm not able to do that, so.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
I do want to add though, I think trust, like building trust and that they immediately trust us.
Yeah.
It's something, I think we've done a really good job of improving this, but I think the idea of like, this is the person you're going to be working with. Here's a little bit about them. For them to be able to know these things about the team that they're hiring, that they're people here in the United States and they're not shipping this off to India to get done or something, like that's something that I think for a lot of people is a concern when hiring development shops or whatever, but it's also, I can see a value in us promoting that a bit more.
Yeah.
Giving people an idea of the real folks that are doing work for them.
No, I think so too. Starts the relationship really well. I love that idea that we're moving forward with. Here's another quote from the book, Steve Jobs. It's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with humanities, that yields the results that make our hearts sing. I liked this, and right after this quote, he starts talking about the idea of mediumism, which is where we can get so hung up on just the technology that we forget to think about how this is making people feel. And I don't really think this is an issue at Dialexa. I think we do a really good job of the user experience and journey mapping and really thinking about what our clients are feeling. But I think it's also really good to bring up because it is super easy to get caught up in just one aspect, and this can even go into getting caught up in just marketing or getting caught up in just this deck and forgetting, that we need to think about how this is making our customer feel and do they feel welcomed here. And so are we spending enough time evaluating the position and feelings of our client? Do our clients feel cared for at each touch point? How can we know? And what my thinking was, are we giving them an opportunity to give us feedback? And do they feel open to that? Like if they're not liking something, do we provide that opportunity with them before all of a sudden, until all of a sudden they're mad about something and we're hearing about it,
I think that we're doing some things to get that better. Like we've instituted, first of all, we're bringing on our first project manager, which will help a lot because project lead is a really hard spot where, if there's one place in the company that we grind down people, it's in that project lead spot. It's a very difficult spot. And bringing on project managers for the bigger projects is going to help, but we're also instituting some things where we touch them in a set way and communication plans, and so they know that they're going to have a chance, because most of the time people want to say what they want to say, but you have to give them that forum, and you have to you sort of have to open your heart and let them have an opportunity to say something, or they won't come to you. But then they will wait till they've blown up and things are really bad, and then they'll call Scott, right? And that's happened even in the near past. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get where it's okay to share things that are going wrong as early as you want with everybody on the team, but especially your project manager and your project lead, so that we don't have things blow up.
Yeah, and I've heard about the regular calls and stuff, updating clients on what's going on and everything, and I think that also goes back to the trust thing. Is if they know what's going on and they know they're going to have a call at this time, every week talking about it, that builds up the feel even more.
Yeah, and I think I see this too, in different ways, that we have ideas of we're going to communicate with you on a daily basis or a weekly basis, but even to where it doesn't seem like we have to have a formal set time for something to be communicated. Developing that relationship with whoever the point of contact is, I can see that being more and more values. And in the client relationships we've had where that's been true, it's been a little easier to get to the point. Now sometimes they also are the worst clients because they don't want to communicate the bad things for whatever reason. But being able to have to where there's not that wall of, all right, I have to have this document, I have to sign it, and send my feedback in this form will help through that entire process.
Well, I also think the agile process has helped that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, not being in this fixed bid, us versus them, everything's a change order mode. Oh my gosh, it's just so nightmarish when you're in that mode. So being in agile mode where we can say, look, okay, we'll flex this, but next week we won't be able to have this guy do this, and it's just easier to be able to just have those conversations without everything having to be a change order.
Yeah, and that makes it feel more human, because things aren't going to be able to follow exact timelines for a really long time. That's just not something that happens.
Make it feel like more of a partnership.
Yeah.
I'd say something hitting on this, not this topic here, but kind of back to the quote here, and one of the things that you see with Apple's products is that, they have soul in general and they have personality, and there's a lot of things that have absolutely nothing to do with pure functionality or purpose. I was just looking at this, on the Apple Watch, it's not just you can tell the time on the homepage, it's you can customize that, you can make it personal. With your contacts, I can measure your heartbeat on here, which is very functional, but I can literally tap my wife there, and I can send her my heartbeat by touching. That has no actual functional purpose. That's never going to make it a functional spec. It doesn't solve a real problem if you look at it at a surface level. But these are the things that make people want to talk about it. They make people love a product.
I really like that.
And it does. It does. It takes that human element of it. Along with the liberal arts and kind of how that interaction happens. Instead of just clicking a button, I put my 2 fingers on it and I can feel my heartbeat, and then seeing it get sent. It is kind of marrying all those things together. It required the technology to facilitate it, but it took it, and it integrated all these other elements into it. And that's probably why it compelled me to actually talk about it. If it was just a button or something, I probably wouldn't have cared. And so it makes a huge difference, I think, in what we do to think about that.
So I do think that goes back to that minimum lovable product definition instead of minimum viable product. So that we're not building the very smallest thing that'll work as a product. We're building like this sliver of emotional connection and solving the why of the business that it can be put out, right? Instead of just something because that created an emotional connection, but you didn't have to share it with somebody.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think
That's details matter too, you know, in products and what we do. I mean, like just look at like the coasters we just did. We're all like talking about it. Like, I mean, a lot of people, companies would just say, yeah, it's a fucking coaster. I mean, look at the black rubber ones; they're just fine. What's wrong with those? What's wrong with it is it lacks that experience or that connection to it, or there's nothing special about it.
And you're
I
right, it
mean,
goes down to the details on it. Because,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a coaster, but it's like getting to look at it and be like, this side looks like this, and this side looks like
So,
this, and it's not going to slide all over the table.
Even to the point, like I was reading some stuff about like, every deliverable you send should be special, right? Even like what can we do to improve? Like when we deliver an SOW, like what around that experience could be made? Could we do to make it more special? You know, even our follow up, like when we delivered this customer journey map, like I had some ideas around it. Man, it would be awesome if we could have a place there where just like an architect would deliver a blueprint and he signs it at the bottom. Like we do this, that we spent the money obviously to print this thing out. Let's do something where there's this consistent idea, like we built this for you and this is just for you.
Well, it's like the first Mac when they all signed in, or they all had a printed.
Oh, right.
sign.
Yeah.
Like, no one was ever going to see that, but we all know about it. because
Right.
it's-
I think that's another thing that I'd like, personally, I'm striving for, and I hope that we can communicate as a company as well, is that that thought leadership aspect and that product ownership aspect where you're engaging with us because you believe that we are experts at what we do. And it's a question that I always have, and I've had these discussions with people about around user-centered design. And it's about how you apply the results of user-centered design, because oftentimes it's true that in order to build something that's truly like revolutionary, you have to build something that people aren't asking for. Specifically, and everyone uses this example, but no one was going to think to ask for the iPhone, right? Because there was no way to ask as a user, there's no way for me to ask for this thing because I have no concept in my mind of what it is. And so often, like if you apply, like if you're solving a problem and you're going to solve it in this new way, that makes sense. But if you're only delivering what people are asking for, you're not doing enough, in my opinion. And people vary on like what they believe in that or not. But I think it's more about solving what the actual need is instead of what you hear them asking for.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to us, like, we don't just take direction and
Right.
send back, take their money and send them what they ask for. If we think there's a better way to do something, which is why we really like to, which is why also we've been kind of like building up our discovery process to understand better what the, objectives are, so we can
do it right along so that we can see it and we can experiencing that journey ourselves is so important to being able to figure out that what you're talking about is some like little switch that's magical that goes off in your mind. I mean, that's true innovation. It's not just doing innovation is not just doing the next thing on the stair step of where it's like making this jump, this leap. And I think that we do it really well when we hit. I mean, you can't hit all that all the time, but when we do hit, we do it really well.
So a brand that I think is super innovative in the way that they connect and engage their customers is Coca-Cola. This is a segue. Is Coca-Cola. And so I've never bought a Coke before. I hate Coke, but once they put my name on it, or on it, or, I bought it because I was like, oh, it's me. And so, yeah, thinking about how they're appealing to our emotions, like their word is happiness, that's what they do, and they find ways to make Coke something that you want, even though I'm really still not going to drink it, but I'll buy it. So,
They don't care if you drink it, they just want your money.
yeah, and so something that he talks about in the book, and I think this is really good for us, just because it's a way that Coke kind of combines technology with their message, and so I want to play you this because I think you'll find it really interesting.
That's a drum.
I cannot enjoy father, mother. All those good family that I know that I miss my family now.
A lot of people that we approached were actually very pleased to hear about this initiative, and I think it shows that Singaporeans do actually care for the foreign workers in our midst.
Do you really think there's a case of Coke in there, Roman? This guy? Oh, a six pack. I believe six pack.
I believe six pack. I don't believe a case.
Thank you for helping us build our building. I see our first time I see the helicopter. It's a very nice. Thank you for hard work. In here, I think more than 2,000 players workers. So everybody getting cooked. We are very very happy because we thinking still somebody think about us.
Needs more drone.
I was gonna say, nice choice in video. You picked the drones for the
I
right
know,
people.
kind of happened, so. So anyways, there's a reason that our Sir Joey video got so much traction, you know?
I saw it start to
Did you code for
autoplay.
the rest of the
Then I was
presentation?
There we go. Yeah, because it gave Dialexa a personality. It gave them something to feel. And so I think that those types of things are really good for Dialexa and things that we should be continuing to think about how we can include and integrate things that we're really good at with kind of communicating to the audiences. And so I think that we got so much just attention on Dialexa just from that one video, you know? And so I think that was really awesome. I think this was a good quote too. When experiences are at the center of how you create, market, and sell your products, extraordinary customer relationships and brand loyalty are fostered. Okay, so we have like 2 more minutes. And I wanted to kind of just touch on this really quick because I thought it was really interesting. He takes the time to kind of talk about innovation versus iteration. And to me, I was thinking about this, I think both are necessary sometimes, depending on what we're talking about. And he didn't make it seem like that was the case, but the more you kind of think about it, you know, I think they are. And so, but I think it's something to think about when we're starting new projects. Is this something that we are innovating on? A lot of cases it is, because that's kind of one of our values. But maybe this is something that we just need to iterate. Maybe that's the things that are more internal. He gives us kind of this cool example of the remote and how its design has evolved throughout the years, and how at the beginning it was this innovation. It was just 2 buttons, and then throughout the middle it just got more and more complicated, and it became a skill almost that you had to have in order to use the remote. And now we're at this point of innovation again, where you can use an app on your phone, you know, and then TVs become smartphones. And so I thought that was something really interesting.